Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Ninja Catfoot and the Covert Action from designer Jun Sasaki and publisher Oink Games. In Ninja Catfoot, you're playing as, I know there's a theme here, I read it in the rulebook, but really this is a dexterity-based party game where you are strapping smartphones to your wrist and utilizing the accelerometer on them to try to grab tokens from the center of the table in such a way that you're not moving too much and triggering kind of a meter that causes you to have to stop doing what you're doing. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to head over to the table. I got Chris involved, and he and I are going to show you a round of the game because that's the best way to explain it. It's very simple. Then we'll come back here, and I'll let you know what I think. All right, here we see Ninja Catfoot all set up, and I'm actually having a special guest during this review. I've got Chris Yee just off camera here to the right. And the two of us are going to do a quick round of the game. So let me just give you the general idea of how it works. You are collecting these tokens, these scroll tokens out of the center of this play area, but you have to do it with this accelerometer-based app, web app, that is connected via slap bracelets to your phone. There's me, there's Chris. And so it's a free web app. You just go on there and you go to the website and you're good to go. The rules are simple. You play through 3 rounds. You have these 3 mission chips that you have stacked near you. And the only rule is that when you take a token, you can only take the token with the hand that has the phone attached. And when you place it, it has to go onto your stack, onto your mission chips there. And every token you place has to be either the same value as the one before it or lower. So you would not want to start with a 1 or a 2 chip because you're really limiting your options there. You're going to be going for those 6s and 5s early on. As you move, the accelerometer on your phone is going to cause a yellow bar to kind of move across your screen. You'll see some of it. Not everything will be in frame every time, but you'll see this yellow bar going across. If it reaches the end, it's going to turn red and make a statement that I believe it means "oh no" in Japanese. And at that point, you have to, if you're holding a chip, you have to drop it and you have to wait for it to cool down. All right? So it's going to go all the way through until all of the tokens that you can take have been taken. So Chris, are you ready to play through a round, sir?
Ready to rock and roll.
All right, so we're going to hit 1, 2, 3, and start. Chris is
Getting
killing
all your 6s.
Chris is killing me. I wasn't even moving, phone. Come on. This is shocking. Ooh, I just got it on there in time.
Holding your breath apparently helps.
Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try holding my breath. Big breath and...
Maybe just a mind over matter thing.
I tried holding my breath. It didn't work, Chris. Now I'm just lightheaded.
That was my plan to win.
All right, so hit stop. Now we compare our stacks. Chris clearly has the larger stack. So what he's going to do is remove one of his mission tokens, which is worth 10 points, and we would continue to go on. Now, the one difference is that since Chris won, he would bump up his difficulty, which would make his accelerometer a little bit more sensitive, kind of a little bit of a catch-up mechanism going on there. And that is the basics of how you play Ninja Catfoot. There is, believe it or not, a solo variant where you click that 60-second timer, you hit start, and you just try to gather as many of the tokens as you can in those 60 seconds. But that is, in a nutshell, what's happening with this game. Let's head back over and I'll let you know what I think. All right, well, I think you saw kind of what this game is about. This is one of those games where the description of the game will give you a sense, but actually watching somebody playing it is the way to go. And I think that this is one of those types of games where watching it may be at least as fun as actually playing it. But let me not get too ahead of myself here. I'm going to try to structure this as one of my traditional reviews, although it's a little bit difficult to do with a game like this. So let's first start off with benchmarks. These are some high-level ideas that I consider when I'm assessing whether I want to take a game off the shelf and play it or not. The first thing is set up and tear down, and in the case of Ninja Catfoot, it's very, very simple. There's not a whole lot to it. Well, there's a little bit involved in getting those kind of straps, the plastic straps, onto your phone. So let's take that into account, I suppose. It takes a little bit of maneuvering and finagling to get those things on your phone. There are different size phones out there. I have one of the larger phones, I think, on the market. And so I actually take the case off of mine to make it easier because it's stretching the bounds, literally and figuratively, of those kind of strap-on pieces on the phones with that size of a phone. So a little bit of time to set it up and tear down in that sense, but otherwise you're throwing some tokens in the middle of the table with a little string to go around it, and you're good to go. Rules are another thing that I like to consider, and this being a game coming from Oink Games, publisher, the rules are generally fine. Now, I tend to find these rules coming from Oink are a little bit hit or miss. Some I think are more clear than others. This is on the clearer end. I mean, there are still a couple of things that I wish had been a little bit more explicitly stated, but for the most part, this is not a game that is rules intensive. It's also not a game that I think you can take terribly seriously, so you're not going to be getting caught up in edge cases and things along those lines. At least I don't think you should. And so for that reason, the rules are fine. They get the job done. All right, the next thing I want to discuss is art and components. And so a couple of things that did not work as well for me, and then some things that worked okay. First is that really there is no art to speak of in this game. So for the purposes of this section of the review, I'm going to be focusing on components because there aren't really any artistic elements to the game. Even the cover is about as minimalistic as you can get, kind of a line drawing of a cat. The tokens themselves don't really have any art to speak of. The other thing that is not really a positive is that the components are really difficult to get back into the box. Now, one of the kind of hallmarks of Oink Games as a publisher is that most of their games fit into this small line of boxes. And some of them fit back into the box better than others. I've played multiple Oink games, and some of them are easy to get back in the box, some are more challenging. This is maybe the most difficult of any of the Oink games that I found to get back into the box. So I did want to point that out in this section. Now, for the positives is the slap bracelets actually work really well. It was something that I thought might be a little too loose, wouldn't give you enough of the support that you needed, but I have not found that to be an issue. I feel like the slap bracelets is a nice little kind of an inspired choice for this because not only does it evoke nostalgia for people of a certain generation, but it also works functionally, I've found. The app also, as a positive, does the job well. It's web-based and seems to work just fine, and you do have to have an internet connection. That is something that you need to point out, is that you need to have an internet connection to be able to get that app or to be able to get that website functioning. But it seems to work well. It's not very complicated, but it seems to work well. Now, I do have a question. I don't know the answer to this, but I do wonder if the accelerometers on different phones are more sensitive than others. Now, there is an adjustment on there, but you have to kind of find what the baseline is if you're going to be taking this game seriously at all, which, again, I can't stress enough, you probably shouldn't be. But I don't know, that's something you might want to keep in mind, is that certain phones may have a more sensitive accelerometer. You may test that out at the beginning of the game, see if you need to make adjustments on those meters. All right, overall game impressions. First off, I will start with something that I liked. Then I'll talk about the things, plural, that did not really work as well for me with this game. So the first thing is on the positive end is that I do think that if you've got the right group, if you've got the right environment, if everybody is going into it kind of understanding what this game experience is about, there is some silly, chaotic fun to be had. It's a novelty, for sure, but there is a little bit of kind of just overt, wacky fun to be involved. I mean, to be found with this game. Now to the negatives. However, that fun probably is only going to happen once or twice. I don't see this as being a game with any kind of legs, with any kind of lasting appeal. It's very much a one-trick pony. Once you've had the experience of trying a game of this, you kind of know what it's about. It's not something that you're really going to keep coming back to again and again. This is, at least to some extent, a skill-based game where, maybe you've got more skill in being slow and careful with your movements, but I don't know that it's one you're going to get better at. Chris during the overview is like, oh, maybe if you don't breathe, it helps. Sure, all of these little funny things. But again, maybe twice I can feel is you're going to get that fun, unless you're always introducing it to new groups. But even then, you're not necessarily going to have the best time, other than maybe watching the reactions of other people. So again, I just don't think it has a lot of legs to it. The novelty factor just isn't enough to make up for the lack of gameplay that really is. There's just not a lot here. There's not a lot of game here. They try to add little rules. They try to, make the way you stack the numbers impact kind of how you're going to play. But for the most part, all you're going to do is go for the highest value chip that's left on the table and then go, descending values from there. There's really no strategy involved at all. And they also included a solo mode that really isn't there. It's basically a 60-second timer. Try to score as best as you can. Okay, to their credit, they do put 2 to 4 on the box, but in the rules and on Board Game Geek, they do list it as a 1 to 4 player game. So I feel compelled to mention that this is absolutely not something you should be looking for as a solo gaming experience. I'm not really sure it's something you should be looking for as a multiplayer game experience. I'm going to be giving Ninja Catfoot and the Covert Action a 5 out of 10. I can't quite recommend it. Cute gimmick, silly concept, maybe fun once, perhaps twice, but really beyond that, there's really not a whole lot else to say. I don't think it's got the legs. So that's it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.